What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with a Mega Man X Dive video. It's been a little while since I said I was going to make this video because I wanted to have it done in a specific way with some nice visuals and showcasing the characters. But since I don't own all the characters, I couldn't do that, and I couldn't find a way to make this come out the way I wanted it. So we're gonna have to settle for this. This is also the second time I'm recording this. The first time I kind of rambled on a lot, and I feel like it took too long to get to the points I wanted to make, so I just scrapped that recording. Before we get too far into this tier list video, I just want to point out a few things. The way I've gone about putting these characters into rankings has to do with a few terms that I will bring up throughout this video and probably through subsequent videos as well as I alter tier list videos and such. One of the first things is TTK, which is time to kill. How quickly a character can just delete another character. So for example, a character like Proto Man EXE, his TTK is very, very low because he can just combo you and then you'll die. Whereas a character like say X, his TTK is fairly high because he can't delete you as quickly as Proto Man could. At least comparatively to Proto Man, his TTK would be high. Following that, dot, which is damage over time, is something I may bring up a few times as well. And the final thing that I wanted to bring up when I was thinking about where to place the characters is like their flexibility and what else they bring to the table aside from damage. All that had at play in how I rank the characters. There might be a few other factors in there as well. Like there are a few other factors as well, but those are a few of the main points I was considering when putting these characters and ranking them. So let's jump into this one, and hopefully this one will go a lot better than my first one. Now this video might be a little bit longer simply because since this is the first one I'm doing, I might have to go into characters a little bit, so I won't ramble on too much like I did in my first video. But at the top of the tier list, to no one's surprise, Proto Man EXE. As I mentioned earlier, he has a very, very low TTK. He has iframes, and he can just delete with either his skill 1 or his skill 2. If it doesn't delete you, then you will either be at low HP and easy pickings, or yeah, that's it. It will just be deleted. Following Proto Man EXE, I opted to put Ultimate Armor X. Because we got DNA early, Ultimate Armor X has a huge amount of burst damage, and on top of that, he has a lot of iframes as well. Between his charge shot and his Nova Strike, his continuous Nova Strikes, you'll be able to delete someone pretty quickly. But one of the bigger things there is the iframes, and you also won't be able to remove the slow effect from his charge shot either because of his DNA. Next up, I actually have Sigma. I wanted to swap Sigma and Ultimate Armor X, to be honest, initially, but then Ultimate Armor X got his DNA. But Sigma is, I think a lot of people sleep on Sigma because Sigma is probably the best option to put on your PvP team if you're struggling with Proto Man EXE. He has iframes, he has inherent preventative shield, and those two things are very, very good when facing off against Proto Man EXE. Not to mention they're just good in general to have, but they are especially effective against Proto Man EXE. And then finally rounding off, this is Black Zero. Black Zero really only has one attacking move, and that's Rayquaza. C Flasher is there, but it doesn't really exist. Like if you're using C Flasher, it's not because you want to use C Flasher. You might be able to get niche uses out of it for dodging specific attacks or hitting the ground immediately, again, to dodge specific attacks. The skill you want to actually be using is your Rayquaza. Your Rayquaza is what gives you iframes, it gives you shield, and it can immobilize the targets if you hit them with it. So there's just a lot of things you can do with your Rayquaza as opposed to C Flasher, which it doesn't really do much of anything. Maybe it can penetrate terrains, I guess, but that's not really all that useful on it. Starting off the A tier, we have Third Armor X. I was thinking about putting Third Armor X up in S tier, so I think you can make the argument that Third Armor X should be S tier, but that's why I put him at high A tier, because I think he can be in S tier. The thing with Third Armor X is his charge shots can pierce terrain, which is fantastic. However, you can't actually aim them, but they do a lot of damage. On top of that, you have access to your, I don't remember the name of the skill, but it's when you turn golden and you get like a fat stat buff. That's very, very good as well, especially in maps like cyberspace. Being able to just throw charge shots off, ignoring terrains, is great because you only have to have a general idea of where your opponent is. You might be able to hit them with a few charge shots. Next up, we have First Armor X. First Armor X, I think, is a unit that a lot of people might maybe sleep on, but I think he's very, very good. He has inherent defense crush. His spiral charge shot is quite strong as well. With his defense crush equipped on his, that comes with his headbutt skill, you have iframes as well. You can use that as mobility. You just have to be careful of, you know, you can't do that in the air. I think First Armor X is very, very good, especially on maps where there are wide sight lines and LOS is pretty easy to get. Might not be so great in cyberspace because it's kind of labyrinthial, but I do think First Armor X is very good. It could be decent at close or medium to far range. Then we have Iris. I think Iris is a very, very good unit. I know a lot of people don't like Iris very much because of her kind of kiting playstyle. It's kind of like Symmetra in Overwatch. Like maybe a lot of people probably just pick a spot and kind of camp it, like in Highway. You just camp the health pack and set up mines all around. But Iris is very, very nice. Dot damage is particularly bad against her because of her passives. That will trigger more mines to spawn, which is bad because more mines spawn that she is not using the cooldowns for. So that's less cooldown she has to worry about using, which is good for her. But she also has Peaceful Wish, which can stun, removes buffs, and what have you. Next up, Second Armor X. I think Second Armor X is another character that a lot of people kind of sleep on, don't really see him as very, very good. I think he's amazing. Second Armor X has the piercing terrain on his charge shots like Third Armor X. However, you cannot aim them. Like you have to shoot them where you want them to go. Like you don't auto aim them is what I mean. And Second Armor X, with his DNA, you can just spam Giga Crush, because if you connect your fully charged shots, you get more armor energy. More armor energy means damage mitigation for yourself, and you can use Giga Crush once that's full. So that's very, very good. Giga Crush has a lot of damage. It has a wide AoE or area of effect as well, which is very, very good for the Second Armor X player. On top of that, I believe with the DNA you now have access to Showtime. So on top of not taking damage during Giga Crush, you're also unaffected by status effects during Giga Crush. Next up we have Cinnamon. To be honest, I don't really like Cinnamon all that much. It's not that I think she's a bad unit, but she's kind of exploitable, although I think she's very good. Similar to Iris, in a sense, that if you kind of just rush Cinnamon down as she spawns in, she's not going to really have a chance to get rolling and kind of get set up to where she would like to be. So for that, I don't really like Cinnamon all that much, but she's still a good unit. She has access to shields, access to healing, fat defense buffs, fat offensive buffs, and she has mitigation via her syringe attacks as well. And you can do the niche builds of like the 1 damage builds or the low damage builds with Glittering Spark. So you can just effectively just slowly chip away at your opposition, and they won't really be able to do much to you once you get going. And then we have Halloween Merino. Halloween Merino, she has iframe, she can warp. She can do a good amount of damage. She has mobility, so I think she's pretty good. Starting off the B tier, I actually put Awaken Zero here. One of the main reasons I put Awaken Zero here is because he does do a lot of damage, but he's kind of glass cannon-y, so he doesn't have any real way to, like, any defense mechanisms, right? Inherently in his kit. However, once he gets his DNA, I think he can easily move up. Like right now, I think he's like teetering on the line of low A, high B tier, but with his DNA you can spam Genmu Zero, you can spam your Sugetsurin, I believe is the name of his ring skill. I don't know. I know a lot of people call it Donut, but I don't know the name of the skill, to be honest. But he can do a fat stack of damage to opposition. Following that, we have Furham, and I think Furham is falling off quite a lot, to be quite honest with you. I'm thinking about moving her down more as more characters come out, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, Furham does have shields, and she's really deadly at close range. But, you know, also deadly at close range? Protoman EXE. Protoman EXE is very deadly at close range. You know, the X's can be fairly decent at close range. Black Zero can be decent at close range. Now, Furham does have a shield, and she does have a dot effect with her Crimson Shadow skill, which is quite nice, and she can raise her crit a lot. So what you can do is build her around crit and not even worry about getting close range, and you go like maybe double sniper with her and roll with the crit skills. But I feel like you could alternatively just use a different unit for that. So for something more consistent, because I think you have to use her Blood Snake in order to get the crit, like the fat crit up going. But I don't think she can one-tap opposition either, which is going to be very, very big coming up, because units like Proto Man have a much lower TTK than Furham does, as Proto Man can close the distance and then he can mob you, whereas Furham doesn't have mobility. For close range is Furham's ideal range, but I mean, if you're getting close to Furham, I would assume that you know something that I don't, and that I'm going to be in for a bad time. Or maybe you're just feeding. I don't know. After that, we have Pandora. Now, Pandora's a bit of a CC unit. CC is its crowd control, so Pandora has, you know, inherent status effects in her kit that will, you know, control the crowd, right? So the crowd being you, the opposition. So she has inherent inherent guaranteed immobilize, inherent slow, you know. So I think Pandora is quite nice in that regard. She wants to be close range to get full use out of her kit. So if you can play like medium to long range, you should be okay. I think a map like Cyberspace is okay for her depending on where you engage her, but you're going to want to be careful because of all the CC she has in her kit. And CC is actually something I should have mentioned at the start of the video as well. Next up, we have Base EXE, and I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with Base EXE being this high, but one, I think he's actually very, very solid as a unit, and two, I think he's very, very good on the current PvP map, which is Cyberspace. Now, I didn't mention that at the start of the video, but some maps will lend itself better to certain characters, and I think Cyberspace lends itself very well to Base EXE, aside from what he has in his kit. He is a zoner character, and you can zone pretty well in Cyberspace because there's not too much room to dodge all that well. On top of that, his skill, I think it's his explosion skill, it has tracking, so I could launch it and it'll just track you a little bit and while firing its lasers. So I can kind of control where I have my opposition go. On top of that, he can steal buffs from you, which is quite nice at random, which ones he takes with his get ability program, but that's decent. And one of the more important things is when he uses a skill, he can trigger his life aura passive, which is very, very nice, because if you're spicy enough and there's no lag, you can time a skill use to go off as getting hit with step sword, or, you know, or something else to block a huge chunk of the damage, so that you're not just taking the full steps or damage from Proto Man EXE, or maybe you're not taking, you know, the full gigahertz damage from second armor X. Axel, for those of you who've been playing for a while, I think you'll know what Axel can do, but if you don't know what Axel can do, he is a B rank unit, so I expect a lot of people will just overlook him immediately. However, Axel has iframes on his roll. Axel has access to a shield, albeit a very weak shield. He has mobility, he has inherent attack buffs, and if it's close range, his strafing barrage can do a lot of damage, surprisingly. Now, like I said, because it's a B rank unit, I feel like a lot of people might overlook him, but he is a very, very strong B rank unit and at close range. The downside with Axel is, again, he doesn't have much defense outside of that, but with his DNA, he does have access to Showtime on his roll, so while he's invincible, he can't hit it with status effects anymore. And if you don't want the shield, you can opt to go for the speed boost on your tactical roll instead. Christmas Leviathan. Christmas Leviathan is another unit I think is solid, and I don't see many people talking about her. Maybe not many people got her because she is a Christmas unit, and that's one of the few times you can get her. But her skills can pierce terrain. She has a bit of CC in her kit with slow, and she does decent damage. So I think she's very solid. I don't think she's overly good. You know, I think she's solid. I don't think she's, you know, really bad or anything. Next up, we have Regular Merino. Regular Merino got a lot better with her DNA. Her shurikens can now pierce terrain, which is good. Her shurikens also return to where they're thrown from. So she throws it, and then they return after they reach maximum distance. Before her DNA, they would not return to her. So in an ideal world, you stun the target with your blink, and then you throw DNA, or I'm sorry, you throw shurikens, you get like if you have the 5 shuriken on, you hit with all 5, and then you get all 5 coming back. Like I said, in an ideal world, if your opponent opts to stand there after they're done being stunned, you can get decent fucking damage off. Or you can use the shurikens and kind of just throw them off in cyberspace, and you know, maybe get some damage off on your opponent on the opposite side of the map. You can, like I said, you can start with blink. Mobility on blinks, you can engage or disengage pretty freely, so that's not bad. Magma Dragoon. To be honest, I think I put Magma Dragoon a bit too high on this. I really like his kit. I like Magma Dragoon. He's probably one of my favorite Mavericks. It's not that I think he's bad, right? But his kit is focused around him being at low HP. We don't have his DNA yet, so he wants to be below like 35% HP. And with the current state of what's at the top tier, I don't think you'll be able to effectively get in that range with Magma Dragoon, which kind of sucks. Magma Dragoon also wants to be, you know, making use of dot damage, so that's gonna be hard for matchups like Iris. Might be hard for Leviathan as well, but I think it'll be okay. Maybe, I don't know. But Magma Dragoon is a combo-oriented character. It was Shoryuken. You can go for your other skill. I don't remember what it's called right now. I don't think it's Rising Fire. Oh, I think yeah, Shoryuken and Hadouken. So like, use one, you hit with the other, combo your skills, get some dot damage off, and maybe get off a KO if you're fast enough between your skills and your weapon. I don't think there's really much else to say about him, but there's a character coming out who is just a better version of Magma Dragoon. So I think realistically I should have Magma Dragoon a bit lower than this. Maybe mid to high C tier. Next up we have Bit. Bit is decent, actually. Bit has a lot of CC in his kit. He has iframes, he has a dash, he has mobility. So that's good. The bind rings don't move very fast, but he does have melee mastery, so that's good for you know, using Nightmare. And his card actually gives him a shield when he's getting hit. And one of the cool things about that is that when the shield is proccing, you don't take damage off the hit when Bit's card triggers, which is interesting. I noticed it when I was playing the Taiwan version a while back when I had Bit. I would get hit, trigger my shield, but I wouldn't take damage for that attack, which is quite nice and actually really interesting. It could lead to some interesting interactions, like you won't get one tap by Proto Man Step Sword combo, because if your shield triggers off of that hit, you won't take damage. Now, I'm not sure what causes it, if that's just how it's supposed to work mechanically, but if it does, like, Bit can be a budget option for taking on Proto Man EXE, which again isn't bad because you can retaliate with your inherent stuns and things like that. Following that, we have Leviathan. Now, I was thinking about swapping on Leviathan and Tron Bon at the tail end of B tier, maybe dropping them down to C tier. Leviathan's okay. She has slow in her kit. I think she can pierce terrain with this one as well with the Ice Ring. I don't remember. Oh no, Ice Ring is from the Christmas Leviathan. What am I saying? I think her Spirit of the Ocean is pretty good. However, I don't know if it's fixed. There was a problem with her card not allowing the Spirit of the Ocean to track. So that just means don't use Leviathan's card. But she also has a passive similar to Iris, where if she gets hit with an attack, she leaves behind an Ice Bit, and the Ice Bit can track the target as well. It's not as powerful as Iris's bombs, if I'm not mistaken, but it is something worth noting if you're using dot damage. Next up, we have Tron Bon. Again, like I said, I was thinking about dropping Tron Bon to C tier, but I think late B, early C is okay for Tron and Iris. Now, Tron Bon, she can one-tap with Lunch Rush, so that's pretty cool. Her skill 2 was a transformation skill to Gustav, and it allows you to take a fat stack of damage before Gustav disappears, because while you're in the Gustav, your HP doesn't, you don't take HP damage. Yeah. So that is worth noting. So if you time your Gustav right, you have iframes as you're starting up the Gustav. If you time it right, as Porterman's coming in the Step Sword, you won't be taking damage. You'll dodge a Step Sword, and you'll have your Gustav up and running. The downside is that Gustav is on a very, very long cooldown, as you would expect it to be. And she has Beacon Bomb in her Gustav, so that can CC a little bit with that. Her DNA lets her CC a little bit more, which is pretty cool. I don't think it'll really change her PvP ranking though, to be honest. I don't think many DNAs will have a drastic impact on, like, such an impact on a character that they would jump from like B tier to like, you know, mid to high A tier, but it will definitely help her out a bit. To start a C tier, I put Absolute Zero. Absolute Zero actually has a pretty low TTK, and his skills do a decent chunk of damage, and he can kind of combo them. He has dot damage in his kit as well. So why is he down here? Well, all he really has is damage. He doesn't really have much protection outside of his rampage skill, but his rampage skill gives him 1 second of invulnerability, I believe, or maybe it's 2, and it gets extended to 3 with his card, or maybe it's 1 gets extended to 2 seconds with his card. But in order for his rampage skill to trigger, he has to be at, I think it's less than 25% HP, maybe it's 35. But if you're that low, I'm surprised that you're able to be that low, to be quite honest, and make use of rampage, because it gives you a damage enhancement status, which is good, but I don't know how practical it is to like use that or rely on that skill. He's in a similar boat to Absolute Zero, but I think Absolute Zero is just a lot better damage-wise than, I mean, to say Awakened Zero. Awakened, same boat as Awakened Zero, where he doesn't have much defense, but Awakened Zero can has a lot more damage. He also doesn't have to play as risky as Absolute Zero does. Absolute Zero has to get close to use his skills, whereas Awakened Zero, if he really needs to, he can play from a bit of a distance because of the range on his Genmu Zero and his ring move. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. Next up is Zero Z. I actually really like this unit, but both of his skills require you to be very, very close range in order to make use of them. His Zero Knuckle does allow you to stun the target. It can inflict attack break as well, which is quite nice. And then his other skill basically just doesn't exist. It's a decent option for like engaging, I guess. It's his shield boomerang. You can throw it, or you can just have it up to reduce damage a little bit. But if you have your shield boomerang up, then if you have your shield boomerang up, it'll go down the instant you use another skill. So I think it's better to just throw it rather than trying to have it up to, well, I guess you could have it up to try and engage, because it reduces damage by like 42% or something similar to that. And then with Zero Knuckle, you do have a chance of restoring HP from a target when you hit them. But with the amount of characters that have just better kits and better range, I don't think that Zero Z is too viable at the upper ends of the meta. Next up, we have Massimo. Massimo has shields. Massimo has access to my iframes. He has a little bit of mitigation in his kit. He also has slow, which is pretty cool, but he's very, very slow himself. His skills take a little bit of time to wind up, but I believe it's his Massimo laser, which you can, or maybe it's the whirlwind. I don't remember which one you can put the iframes on, but you can put them on one of them. I like the shields more, and I think it's his whirlwind that has the bigger shield on it. But he does have dynamic destruction, which is very, very nice as well in his kit if you can land it, because you have to hit his whirlwind. His whirlwind is a very, very close range move, so you want to pair that with like maybe explosive blower, maybe even snowy blower to slow them down, to chill them and slow them down even more. Following up with Proto Man. Proto Man can be surprisingly a nuisance in PvP. The problem with Proto Man is that he has to be 5-star, otherwise you won't get full value out of his kit. But even at 5-star, I think he's just outclassed by everything else that we have access to. But he is very, very nice if you can actually make use of him. He does have Big Bang Shot, which is cool, and he has with his DNA, every 12 seconds I believe he gets a shield. I think it is. His shield bash can also inflict defense down, which is really, really nice. So you can try to engage with your shield bash and then combo from there. Like, you know, like shield bash, maybe explosive blower, then you can just pizza cut or something. Maybe you want to pizza cut first and into explosive blower, or sorry, explosive blower into shield bash. I'm not sure which one you would want to do. Next up, we have the Vile units. The Vile units I think are more suited for raids, to be quite honest. Like boss raids or boss stages, with how Vile's kit is set up. For both of them. Vile does have CC in his kit, which is quite nice. Regular Vile, no Halloween Vile. Regular Vile has CC in his kit, which is very, very nice to have in his kit. So that's cool. He also has multiple charges of the skills that have CC. So you could potentially lock someone down if you get close enough to them to connect your skills. After that, we have Lair. And Lair, unfortunately, I don't like her rapier skill. Her Tenshoha, I really, really like. It has a huge hitbox, bigger than what you would think it is, and it does a lot of damage. So if you catch someone with it, you'll be doing a good amount of damage. I think her rapier skill does have Immobilize on it, though, so that could be useful. But I don't remember if the Immobilize is, if it has to be on like the opening attack or is it on the follow-up attack. Falcon Armor X, after that, Falcon Armor X again, he's just one of those units I don't think he's very suited for PvP. His charge shot killing North Terrain and inflicts a lock on debuff, so double sniper with him is pretty nice. He can fly, which is neat, I guess. So you can engage, disengage pretty freely. And he has Giga Crush. Giga Crush with his chip to focus the energies into a closer range means that you can almost get a KO with it. Assuming, you know, like no companionship or anything like that. Alia isn't too bad. Again, she's one of those units with a higher TTK though. Green Spinner and her Melt Creeper are alright. Melt Creeper can only be used while she's on the ground though, so it's very, very hard to make use of that. Roll is interesting. Now, I put Roll in C tier, but Roll has a lot of good things in her kit. I think Roll could be a lot better if she was more consistent, because Roll with her card at 5-star has a lot of iframes on her Eddy support skill. But the problem is you can't control whether it's a regular bomb, a big bomb, or a heal, right? So it sucks if you need, if you need a big bomb to finish off the KO, but you get a little bomb, so you don't get the KO on opposition, and then they KO you in return, right? So that's one of the big reasons why I put Roll down here, despite her being able to perform very, very well with her iframes and such. You probably could get away with using her versus Proto Man EXE. I guess in theory with her iframes. I don't remember if she gets, I think she can get a shield off of her mopping skill as well. But like I said, her TTK can vary. It can either be low, high, or it could not exist on her skills, because you could just get the heal instead of the bombs. New Year Cinnamon, which I'm just realizing I have here and at the bottom here by accident. New Year Cinnamon, she has an interesting mechanic or gimmick where you can blind the opposition, where you paint the screen black. I mean, it would be better if I couldn't still see the arrow, the targeting arrow, but I can still see the targeting arrow. So I might not be able to see the stage, but I can know where my enemy is, so I can still attempt to fight back, which, I mean, you kind of need to because of balance reasons. But she's also kind of inconsistent with her stuff as well. Like she can bestow buffs, or maybe it's still buffs, but hers is RNG, like heavy RNG as well, depending on what you can get. Following that, we have X. I think X is very solid. For those of you who watched one of the first videos on my channel for X Dive, you know that I think most players should have invested into X. He is a very, very solid unit to start with. Very easy to build up, and you can get value out of him. You're probably not going to get as much value anymore out of X because there's so many more units available for PvP. But X can deal a good chunk of burst damage with his homing rocket, as that does inflict defense crush. His charge shot do decent damage, and his cards are available in the shop along with Buster Mastery allow him to do a good chunk of damage. But he doesn't have any kind of defense. Like if you don't lead with X in PvP, I don't think you're going to be in for a very, very good time. You can still easily get frags with him. But next up is Alia, or Ale, not Alia. She has a transformational skill as well. Both of our base skills I was gonna say they don't do very much, but gaining access to more biometal is very good. It gives you an attack boost as well, and then when you change into the 0 biometal, you get the charge shot and the Z saver. The charge shot is probably what you're going to be using most of the time. Now, one of the biggest downfalls with Ale is that if you're charging a charge shot and you use Z saver, it resets your charge shot, so you have to charge up again. Now, if you're using Ale, you're probably going to be using the charge shot more than the Z saver, just because you can play for a safer range at that point. If you need to get close, then use Z saver. But the charge shot also does a decent chunk of damage as well. Next up, we have Pallet the God. I actually really like Pallet. Pallet has CC in her kit with her Paralyzing Current. Problem with Pallet is if you're not jumping in the air using Paralyzing Current, you're going to be idle on the ground for a little while. Even if you connect, you'll probably waste the time that you got with the Immobilize on the Paralyzing Current. Her other skill, Black Arrow, you get 6 charges of it, so that's pretty cool. She doesn't have very high TTK though, inherently though. Or like any real kind of defenses. She has with her card, she has interference, and I think she can also attack. I think it's her Black Arrow that inflicts attack break. So you have that, but outside of that, she doesn't really have too much else going for her. Following that, we have Mega Man Walnut. Again, Mega Man Walnut doesn't have any kind of defense. His TTK can be fairly low if you hit the Crusher, get the Immobilize Shining Laser, and then you can go off with your abilities. I'm sorry, with your weapon a little bit. But other than that, his Shining Laser, the range isn't all that great, and it's very, very easy to dodge, and because he's immobile while he's using it. So if you do dodge, you can just exploit him very, very easily. Alright, so moving on to the D tier, we have Super Mega Man. Prior to DNA, Super Mega Man, he's kind of one of those units that's just like there, to be honest, it feels like. His charge shot's pretty cool, and Summoning Beat's pretty cool, but his TTK is very, very low. He doesn't have much in the way of defense. He has mobility with his triple jump, which is cool. After his DNA, he gets a speed boost after he triple jumped, which is very, very nice. But right now, he's kind of just one of those units that's just kind of eh. UAXCM has the potential for low TTK with his all-out barrage. However, all-out barrage is a one-tap, and more experienced players will probably not get hit with it. Because UAXCM is one of those units that I feel is more catered to being good against less experienced players because they don't know about all-out barrage. Now, with that said, UAXCM's DNA has given him access to more things to be able to connect his all-out barrage, right? So you have the reverse controls, and you have the one where if you hit with your missile launcher, you can use all-out barrage again. So that's pretty good. But these things are just very easy to dodge. And missiles are pretty slow. So outside of maybe getting a jump on someone with like a missile or like maybe a nice stun, I don't think UAXCM is very, very, very good or very viable either. He does have a cool passive or DNA where if he equips a sprayer and a machine gun at the same time though, you take less damage, so that's pretty cool. I like that. Next up we have Mega Man EXE, and it hurts me to have Mega Man EXE this low, but his damage fluctuates a lot with because of his perfect sync. The less you get hit, the higher your perfect sync is, the more you get hit, the lower it is. And his gut straight isn't all that good, to be honest, for PvP. It's much better in PvE. Charge shot's okay, but then gut straight is kind of like, it's like I'd rather just not use gut straight unless maybe like cyberspace, because it can pierce terrain, which is pretty cool. But it doesn't really have too much else going on for it as well. And I think he might have a passive that allows him to take less damage while he's in Well, his perfect synchro is at a certain level. Classic Mega Man. His TTK is quite high. He is pretty exploitable with his full power charge shot. Luckily, I believe we got the buff so that he doesn't he's invulnerable during that, which is very, very good. But it's very easy to dodge. His leaf shield can inflict slow, so that can make it a bit easier to dodge. I'm sorry, easier to connect the full power charge shot. And if he's invulnerable during it, that means you can't damage him, but you can still like stun him out of it. You know, you can still hit him with slow, you can still hit him with dot, which I think that'd be the least impactful thing to hit him with. But like if you stun him or slow him during that, well, that's kind of unfortunate. Following that, we have Zero. Kind of hard to put this Zero pretty low as well, but he doesn't really have too much going for him as opposed to his counterpart Black Zero. He does still have a shield, which is significantly weaker than Black Zero's shield on his version of Safe Flasher. And then he has his uppercut sword, which isn't bad, but outside of like maybe a stun, it's probably going to be pretty hard to connect that. And on top of that, there's a lot of characters who would like to be close range that can deal damage in a much faster fashion, such as Furham or even UAXCM. Next that is Halloween Ale. Halloween Ale really doesn't have much going for her in terms of PvP. I do like how she can delete barriers, but other than that, I don't see her getting too much use. And then finally we have Seal. Seal's kit on paper sounds very, very good. However, Seal herself, her kit doesn't, I feel like the way it was implemented and executed, it doesn't fit well for PvP in like a good sense, which kind of sucks for Seal. All right, and then we have the 3 hunters down here as well. Hunter V, I think, is the best one for PvP, so let's go ahead and put him. I think I put Hunter V right here, right behind Awaken Zero. I think Hunter V is another character that can easily slip up to A tier, maybe even high A tier. As he has a lot of iframes on his kit. He has inherent attack buffs. He just has a lot of good things going for him. He has dash attacks. Both of his attacks are dash attacks, so he can close the distance very, very easily, which is good for him. Rax, somewhere in C tier probably for Rax. Maybe right above the vials. He does have the defense crush on his great charge slash. It's pretty cool. It's gonna be useful for augmenting your damage as well. And then Hunter R, maybe right here. I could see her moving up quite a bit though, because Hunter R does have potential to do a fat stack of damage with her kit. She can also, depending on which shell you're using, if you're using Crag shell, using slicing, or what have you, and her counterattack is pretty decent as well. So hopefully I was able to get all of my thoughts across coherently enough for everyone to understand my reasoning for putting characters where. I know people obviously are going to disagree with some of my character placements. Like, I know people are going to disagree with my base EXE placement, but like I said, I think he's I think he's solid, and I think he excels even more on the current map of cyberspace as well. So let me know down below what you guys think of this list. Let me know where you would put some characters if you were to change units from this list as well. I know some of you have asked as well about a weapon tier list. That might be a bit more difficult, maybe because weapons are going to excel. Weapons, like characters, are going to excel in different locales. I'm sorry, different game modes as well. So this one is specifically for PvP, and I might make one for weapons as well, specifically for PvP, and like not worry too much about the other modes. I am gonna try to have a write-up along with this in case anyone wants to control F and just see where I put the characters and why, like a Google Doc or something. I'll include in the description once it's completed. But yeah, let me know what other videos you guys want to see as well. I know some people mentioned card videos as well. I can see what I can put together about that. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to show your support. Helps the channel, it helps me grow, so that you enjoy the content. And I will see you guys next time. Oh god, this video is really long. Oh dear.